Mike, that's Linda. Hey there. No, it's very calm right now. We're just waiting for the governor to walk into the 8:30 briefing. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
small room and take that. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Good morning. I just received a briefing on dangerous Category 4 Hurricane Michael from Emergency Management here in Tallahassee. Hurricane Michael is a deadly Category 4 storm. This is the worst storm that the Florida Panhandle has seen in more than 100 years. Again, this is the worst storm that our Florida Panhandle has seen in a century. Hurricane Michael is upon us, and now is the time to seek refuge. Hurricane Michael has already taken lives in Central America, and the eye of the storm will make landfall on Florida's Panhandle in just a few hours. We expect conditions across the Panhandle to begin deteriorating rapidly. We have spent the past few days traveling the areas of the state that Michael will impact, warning people to evacuate. Now the storm is here. It is not safe to travel across the Panhandle. If you are in a coastal area, do not leave your house. The time to evacuate in coastal areas has come and gone. Listen to local officials. If you're in an inland county, you may have one last chance to seek shelter, but only do so if local officials say it's safe. Again, if you made the choice not to evacuate, please find a place to shelter, seek a place of refuge. But if it is not safe to leave your home, don't leave. The worst thing you can do now is leave and put yourself and your family in danger. Now we are focused on the response and recovery from this storm. We have 54 shelters open across the Panhandle and Big Bend. More will open depending on need. As soon as Michael passes, we will have a massive wave of response and support coming down and around the Panhandle. We'll have more than 1,000 search and rescue personnel deploying immediately after Michael passes. We now have 3,500 National Guard members activated and staged. These soldiers are absolutely ready to help. 135 Fish and Wildlife Commission officers are ready for deployment and will respond with a variety of specialized equipment, including shallow draft boats, ATVs, airboats, and four-wheel drive vehicles. The Florida Highway Patrol has pre-positioned 100 troopers and has nearly 300 troopers available for deployment across the Panhandle. They have transitioned to 12-hour shifts as part of the response. Law enforcement will also be manning bridges to make sure that when conditions become too dangerous, the bridges are closed. Listen to these officers. Law enforcement and our National Guard around our state are heroes, and so many will be leaving their families and placing themselves in danger during this storm to help others. We are so grateful for their dedication. The Florida Department of Transportation has dozens of crews staged to push down from the north and clear roads so even more supplies and rescue personnel can get to impacted areas. Right now, the Florida Department of Transportation is closely monitoring U.S. Highway 98 as well as all bridges. Engineering plans are being developed to rebuild vital areas of highway. We will work around the clock to make sure that roads and bridges reopen as quickly as possible. We have trucks loaded with tons of food, water, and other critical supplies ready to move in. We will deploy medical assistance teams, and we have hospital augmentation teams to make sure the medically needy are safe and receiving care. The Florida Department of Health currently has 3 special needs shelter augmentation teams with 22 staff in place. We have 18 ambulance strike teams with 90 ambulances. We have 3 federal disaster medical assistance teams with 105 staff, 5 disaster management assistance strike teams with 35 staff, 3 disaster management assistance team task forces with 42 staff. The Florida Department of Health has also contracted with the International Medical Corps to obtain additional resources for assistance, including 50 nurses, 2 hospital emergency department teams, and 1 emergency hospital. The Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration is in contact with healthcare facilities to ensure they have the resources they need. You've heard me say all week how important it is to get the lights back on after the storm. There are 19,000 personnel staged to begin utility restoration, and we will be posting power outage numbers from every utility. Getting power back on is absolutely critical to our recovery and response effort, and it is a top priority. We've also focused on keeping all communication lines open, and we are not seeing any communication outages right now. We're also thankfully not seeing any widespread fuel shortages or outages. Following the storm, we will have resources available to quickly make sure fuel is moving to where it's needed. The State Emergency Response Team has been holding regular calls with the fuel industry and ports in Florida to ensure they can get gas to all areas safely. Floridians can download the app Gas Buddy to check where fuel is available. President Trump has approved the pre-landfall disaster request we made on Monday, and that will help with resources and response. I just spoke with the President, who again offered all available federal resources. We continue to be in constant contact with FEMA and their team in the State Emergency Operations Center. That includes experts from Homeland Security, the EPA, the Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, and the Army Corps of Engineers. Along our coast, communities are going to see unimaginable devastation. Think about the devastation we've seen before with storms like Hurricane Irma. The Panhandle and Big Bend will see winds in excess of 145 miles per hour. Think about that, 145 miles per hour. Again, Hurricane Michael is forecast to be the most destructive storm to hit the Florida Panhandle in a century. The storm will bring torrential rain to most of the Panhandle and Big Bend, which means flooding will be a major issue. Expect to see 12 inches of rain in some areas of the Panhandle. So think about that, a foot of rain in some parts of the Panhandle. Again, prepare for major flooding from this storm. The National Hurricane Center is forecasting storm surge to be between 9 and 13 feet. That means the water will come miles inshore and could easily rise over the roofs of houses. Much of the rest of the Gulf Coast will see between 2 and 6 feet of storm surge, which is still life-threatening. Remember, we can rebuild your house, but we cannot rebuild your life. Take this seriously. Keep your family safe. The state is not taking this storm lightly, and neither should any family in the state. Our state will continue to do whatever it takes to make sure that every family and every visitor in Florida is safe after the storm. But I can't say enough. Listen to local officials. Listen to local officials. You do not want to be the person who survives the storm just to put your life or your family's life at risk after it passes because you didn't listen to local officials. During a storm, first responders cannot come out and save you. It's too dangerous. Now is the time to prioritize to keep your family safe. Do not take chances. So, let's all be safe, stay alert to weather updates, watch this storm closely, listen to local officials. We all have families. I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. My family is the most important thing to me, and I cannot imagine anything happen to them. I don't want anything to happen to any family in this state. During disasters, Floridians take care of each other. We've seen that time and time again. We saw this after Hermine, Matthew, Irma, and Maria. Floridians are strong. Floridians are resilient. There is nothing our state cannot recover from because there is no state that cares, loves, or comes together like Florida. Hurricane Michael cannot beat Florida. Visit floridadisaster.org for information on shelter and emergency assistance following the storm. You can visit fl511.com for current road conditions. Families can also call the State Emergency Information Line for assistance. You can also follow us at FLCERT or FLGovScott on Twitter for live updates on Michael. Con la llegada de este huracán, lo más importante que cada familia puede hacer es tener un plan. I'll be glad to answer any questions. This is devastating.
Governor, there's a lot of political ads airing right now, including the one criticizing Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum for his response to Hermine. Should those be airing during the storm?
You can talk to individual campaigns. I'm spending my time. I'm spending my time getting the state ready. Now I'm going to spend my time recovering.
Governor, your schedule said you spoke to someone in Bay County. Is that it looks like that's where it's going to have a great deal of impact.
Well, still got 6 hours, so it all depends on where it moves. But I mean, Apalachicola is already getting big storm surge. I mean, I think it's might be worse one place than the other, but golly, it's going to be horrible. I mean, all along that area. Whether whether you get 6 foot of storm surge or 13 foot of storm surge, it's deadly.
Do you have a sense of how many people haven't evacuated in areas they need to?
No, when I left Franklin yesterday, that was the city I went to yesterday. They were saying they're still, like one of the islands. They're telling me there's still 50 people sitting on the island, and they've talked to them, and they've sent sheriff's deputies down to talk to them, and they're not going to evacuate. And so I'm scared to death for them. So I hope nobody keeps any kids down anywhere. I mean, it's one thing for an adult to make a decision. I just hope no one made the decision for a child. Yes, sir.
Hi. Has there been? When you spoke with President Trump, did he make any mention of his ongoing conflict with Andrew Gillum and the war of words they've kind of had between each other just recently, just as the storm has been arriving?
I talked to the president just, 10 or 15 minutes ago, and all he talked about was making sure we had all the federal resources. Yeah.
There was an email that went out yesterday to some local officials that seemed to raise concerns about whether they were really ready. Are you concerned? Like, what is the problem there, and why weren't they ready?
I think people are getting ready. I think this thing happened fast. I mean, if you look at how fast this thing happened, it wasn't like Irma, where I don't know how many days, but we had a long time, or when what was happening with Florence was coming for a week. This one happened very quickly, and I think I think everybody's pushing as hard as they can to get everybody ready. I think whether it's state, federal, local resources, everybody's doing, trying to get everybody ready. So.
Done more ahead of the start of hurricane season, or I don't
know. My job is, my job was to do everything I could to get people to evacuate, help people get ready. What we're doing here is respond to whatever needs anybody has. We'll do everything we can. What I'm worried about now is I want everybody to survive. I don't want anybody to lose their life during the storm, and then we got to keep everybody safe afterwards. So.
All right, we'll take one more question.
Governor, I wanted to ask you, you've been working, preparing, and all of a sudden, there's nothing else you can do but wait. What is that like personally and as governor?
Well, you pray that everybody listened, and maybe it'll be less. Hopefully, we prepared something worse than what's going to be. I don't know, but I think today is making sure that we're ready for the response. We have. You can see them today even coming in, but we got recovery and response teams ready to deploy. I know I've talked to utilities. I didn't talk to them this morning, but I've talked to them yesterday, and they're still getting more utility workers ready. But if you look at all the resources people are getting ready now, the question is going to be is how bad will it be? We've got to do a good job with deploying them. But once this happens, people have got to be cautious. There's going to be down trees, down power lines, flooding. We're going to have all these issues. So survive this storm and then don't do anything foolish. And I know the locals are going to work their tail off to keep people safe. We're going to do everything we can and send people out to keep people safe. I'm praying to God people will be safe.
All right, thank you so much.
Briefing of each one of these ESFs, where they'll pipe this out in the room so you guys can hear what's happening, what they're doing. If you have any questions about that.